In a dark, dusty factory, a young boy barely 10 scrapes metal in silence, his hands calloused, but watch closely. When he draws on the soot-covered wall during his break, the art stuns even his cruel supervisor. Hidden in poverty, this child holds a gift the world isn't ready for, until one stranger walks in and everything changes. The factory clanked with the heavy rhythm of old machines. Screams of rusted gears echoed off stained walls as a thin boy in a torn kurta worked in silence. His name was Aarav, barely 10 years old, with sharp, intelligent eyes hidden beneath layers of grime and exhaustion. While others took smoke breaks, Aarav remained, too afraid of the foreman's wrath, too hungry to rest. The iron rods he carried were heavier than his arms could manage, but he'd learned to drag them, back hunched like an old man. His mother worked at a garment shop nearby, while his alcoholic father hadn't come home in weeks. Aarav was the man of the house now, if 10 could be a man. At lunchtime, while the others jeered or napped, Aarav snuck behind the boiler room. There, behind a rusted door, was a hidden canvas, an old soot-covered wall he had discovered weeks ago. Using pieces of charcoal and scrap metal, he began sketching. First it was birds. Then faces. Now full landscapes. His fingers were his brushes. The filth was his ink. Today, he drew a lion with eyes that held pain, just like his. As he blended ash with grime to shade the mane, a sharp voice shouted from behind. "What is this?" It was Munshi, the factory supervisor, staring at the wall like he'd seen a ghost. Aarav dropped the charcoal. His heart stopped. "You drew this?" Munshi asked, voice trembling, eyes darting between the boy and the image. Aarav nodded silently. He waited for the slap. But Munshi didn't raise his hand. Instead, he stepped closer. His voice was lower now, almost curious. "Who taught you?" "No one," Aarav whispered. "I just see it in my head." Munshi stared at the lion. The detail was impossible. The emotion in the eyes, uncanny. It looked professional. He didn't say another word. He simply walked away. That night, Aarav couldn't sleep. Had he broken a rule? Would they fire him? His mother couldn't afford to lose his wages. But the next morning, something strange happened. A man in a clean white shirt and camera around his neck stood beside Munshi. They both watched Aarav work. The man said nothing. Just clicked pictures. Aarav avoided eye contact, his pulse racing. Later that day, Munshi pulled him aside. "Tomorrow, don't come to work," he said coldly. Aarav's chest tightened. "Please, sir, don't fire me." "I'll work double," Munshi interrupted. "I said don't come here. Go to this address instead." He handed him a card with strange writing and a name, Dev D'Souza, Art Director, National Cultural Trust. Aarav looked up, confused. Munshi turned and walked away. Aarav stood outside the tall gray building, unsure if he was in the right place. The sign above read, National Cultural Trust, Center for Youth Talent. The iron gate loomed large, far different from the broken wooden ones in his neighborhood. He looked down at the card Munshi had given him. Was this a trap? Maybe they'd call the police and say he'd vandalized the factory wall. But there was no turning back. Clutching the paper like a lifeline, Aarav stepped through the gate. Inside, a woman in glasses smiled as he entered the lobby. "You must be Aarav," she said warmly, surprising him. He nodded, eyes darting around. Marble floors. Tall windows. Air conditioning. He had never breathed such clean air indoors. "This way," she said, guiding him down a hallway lined with paintings, real ones. One looked like a ship in a storm. Another showed a woman crying over a broken violin. The images stirred something in him, he didn't know what, but he felt it in his chest. They entered a room with sunlight pouring in through the ceiling. Canvas stands, brushes, and color-filled palettes surrounded him. And at the center of it all was the man from the factory, the one with the camera. "Welcome, Aarav," said Dev D'Souza. "This is your new workshop." Aarav blinked. Dev smiled. "You don't need to work in that factory anymore. Your talent belongs here." "But I don't know how to paint with colors," Aarav mumbled. Dev handed him a blank canvas and a single brush. "Just show us what you see." Hands shaking, Aarav sat in front of the canvas. He picked up a brush for the first time in his life. He closed his eyes and remembered the lion. But this time, he saw something more. He dipped the brush in brown. Then red. Then deep black. He painted flames, not of fire, but anger. He painted a boy, faceless, standing with calloused hands and eyes wide open as the world burned behind him. Around the boy were shadows, machines, fists, chains. But behind him rose wings made of paper and ash. The room fell silent as he painted. Staff members walked in quietly and froze. Even Dev stopped writing. They watched in awe. 3 hours passed before Aarav put the brush down. The painting stunned them. Aarav stood up, unsure of what he had done. "Was it okay?" Dev walked up and placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Aarav, that wasn't just okay. That was a revolution." Word spread fast. A week later, Aarav's painting was displayed in a public exhibition under the title Wings of Ash. Critics from across the city came. Newspapers wrote headlines, "Factory Boy's first painting leaves gallery in tears." Offers started flooding in: free art training, school sponsorships, donations for his mother, even a scholarship from the Minister of Culture. One rainy morning, Munshi visited their home with tears in his eyes. "You've made me proud, boy," he whispered, handing Aarav a small package. It was a photo he had secretly taken of Aarav drawing the lion. Aarav finally smiled. Months passed. Aarav began training formally under India's top art mentors. But he never forgot the soot. Or the factory. At his first solo gallery launch, now aged 11, Aarav stood in front of his largest canvas yet, a scene of child laborers in shadow, reaching out toward a distant sky, full of blank pages waiting to be filled. In his speech, he said, "There are millions of Aaravs still locked in factories, whose hands know how to create, but are forced to break. I'm just one who got lucky. I won't stop painting until the world sees them too." The room erupted in applause. But more importantly, cameras rolled. Headlines flared. Government departments were forced to acknowledge child labor violations in the area. Aarav's gift had become more than art. It had become a weapon. A mirror. And a light.